Just briefly defining what lifestyle medicine is for those of you who aren't familiar with our terminology. It's the use of everyday choices in medicine. Diet, exercise, weight management, sleep, sunlight, heat. It's stuff that you can do yourself, what we sometimes refer to as grandmother medicine. The evidence-based part refers to whether there's a background that makes it plausible that it will actually work. So don't underestimate your body's design to be self-correcting, and that's whether you've got cancer or heart disease or diabetes or autoimmune disease. When we're talking about this, inflammation is such a common term that we're using, we need to think about that a little bit, because it's also one of the more abused terms, I think, in medicine, especially in sales. And that's because inflammation is often labeled as your enemy, when in actual fact, it is your body's healing response. It's only when something is getting on top of things so that your immune system can't control it that it becomes seeming to be a problem, but it's not really the problem. It's whatever is inciting the immune system that it's not able to get on top of it. That's the problem. It's what's causing inflammation. But if somebody says something is anti-inflammatory, just to have a good time, you can just ask them to prove it. Because there's a basket of things. And that applies to diets. I see people coming in with being told they're on an anti-inflammatory diet, and I said, oh, tell me about your anti-inflammatory diet. And they said, well, I don't have any alcohol or dairy or gluten or coffee. And so I say, oh, are those things inflammatory? And they say, oh yeah. I say, every single one of the things you just mentioned are actually demonstrably anti-inflammatory. Cheers. Cheers. When we're prescribing exercise for autoimmune disease, or pretty much any disease, we typically start with a small component 3 times a day. Exercise in multiple small doses seems to work better. This is the biggest body of literature for this is from the diabetes work. But especially when people have joint disease or fatigue, it's also simply a lot more practical. 1 minute 3 times a day is a lot more practical if you feel lousy than bigger components. They're also, I mean, who can have an excuse not to do 1 minute 3 times a day? You know, your options for getting out of it are pretty slim. You're largely in control of what your future looks like. If you're going to let a feeling of defeat make your future a worse future, then you're really asking for trouble. And then I'm hoping your common sense will take over and say, this is really dumb. Something else that helps some people is I had a friend and she just used to go to a nursing home and visit people. She was known there, and it would remind her of what she still had to be thankful for. For tackling autoimmune disease, these are the tools that we know about from lifestyle medicine. Employ them vigorously, employ them often, and with a lot of our patients, we find they can completely control their disease process without any additional medications, or if it doesn't work completely, it'll work to reduce the amount of medication they use. And if it doesn't do that, it keeps them in better shape so that they have less harm. So let's pretend you're still needing corticosteroids, for example. When you're doing all this stuff, your bones are going to stay stronger, your muscles are going to stay stronger, and so on. So you'll still do better. So no matter what, you want to do this.